Hi everybody, it's Miss Lisa from the St. Paris Public Library. Welcome to our summer cooking class. This cooking class is called the Doggie Bag cooking class, and it is going to use leftovers that you have at your house. Now, some are cooked in the microwave, some are cooked in the oven. Some of the recipes you may need to adjust to your particular family diet or however that works. We are a low-fat, low-meat diet. We pretty much only eat chicken here. So tonight, we're going to be using some leftover rice. Now, these are the ingredients that you're going to have, not this one. These are the ingredients that you're going to have in your cooking, in your doggy bag that you picked up at the library. I gave you a bag from this boiling bag rice. It will make 2 cups of rice in it. However, if you're doing this recipe at home, you would use your own leftover rice. But since my rice pan that I have perfected the art of cooking rice in only holds 2 cups at a time, there are way too many of you. So I opted to do this, but in reality, you would actually use leftover rice that you cook. So there's rice and there's refried beans. There's salsa. Now the salsa I used is mild because sometimes when you cook it with the rice, it gets a little bit hotter than what it normally does. And we don't eat a lot of spicy food other than buffalo wings, but so I prefer to cook it a little bit more mild. Same way with the taco seasoning. The taco seasoning you get, mine was in this little packet that I cut open and I use a little bit out of each time I cook. But yours will be is in a container, and that's your taco seasoning that you need to mix with your beans. So we are going to get started, and we're making bean and rice casserole. You're going to need 2 microwavable containers. If you don't microwave your food, then I suggest you figure out how to modify it. You can warm stuff on the stove in pots and pans and do it that way. You also need a casserole dish. This is the one I'm going to use. It's actually microwavable, so if you want to make this casserole completely in the microwave, you can do that and then top it off in the oven to get your cheese really gooey and brown on top. You could do that too, but I'm actually going to bake mine in the oven. So the first thing you want to do is preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Okay. The second thing you want to do is wash your hands. You want to wash your hands with soap and water so that you get rid of all the germs that you've been carrying around with you all day before you start touching your food. All right, we're going to start with the rice. Now, I've cooked my boiling bag rice. Now, normally I would have leftover rice. So I'm going to cut the top off. It comes in this nifty thing. However, there are 2 cups in here. So if you have a bigger family, you may want to do a full 2 cups and then just increase your salsa a little bit. So I'm going to start with 1 cup of rice. Scrape it all in there. And then I'm going to add 1/4 of a cup of water. And I'm going to use, it doesn't matter, warm or cold water, either one. Just 1/4 of a cup of water. And then you're just going to pour that water on there. And then you're going to use some salsa. I'm going to shake mine up. And I need 1/2 cup of salsa. So I'll just pour it right here in this thing. I don't like to dirty more dishes than I have to. So 1/2 cup is that much. There we go. I'm going to get a spoon. Okay, we're going to mix that right into the rice. Now we're going to stir it all together, and you're going to notice that it's a little runny, and that's okay because your rice will dry out if it's left in the refrigerator. Once it gets cold, it dries out a little bit, and we don't want it to be like really dry. Okay, so now we're going to microwave this with no lid on it for probably at least a minute or maybe 2 minutes. We want some of the liquid to evaporate off. If you're going to do this on the stove, that's what you're going to do. You're just cooking it together so that it's marrying the flavors, they say, in the cooking world. So you're going to cook it until the water comes off of it, or the liquid gets a little bit thinner and it thickens out. Okay, while we're waiting for the rice to cook, we're going to start our beans. So in another microwave dish, we're going to put our refried beans. And I'm going to use the whole can, because there's no sense in using half a can and having a half a can of refried beans. That's why I said if you use the boiling bag, you probably can use the whole bag of rice and put it on top. Okay, so you want your refried beans in the microwave bowl. Just use a spoon. Chop them up a little bit because they're stiff until you warm them. And you can warm these on the stove too. You just have to add a little bit of liquid to them so they don't stick in the pan, okay? If you make your own refried beans, wonderful. But Miss Lisa doesn't make refried beans. Okay, I'm gonna warm these a little bit before I add the taco seasoning, just so that I can mix it in with it. So I'm just gonna put these in the microwave and warm these up with a lid on it. I'm gonna put the lid on it because we don't need the water. When you want the liquid to stay in the dish, you put on a lid. It traps the liquid in there and actually creates a little bit more liquid with the steam. If you want it to lose some of its liquid and dry out a little bit cooking, then you leave the lid off so the steam can come out, because the steam is the liquid from the dish. So we're going to put the lid on the refried beans while we warm them. All right, our rice cooked for 2 minutes in the microwave, so I'm going to stir it up. They're still pretty runny. So I'll just go ahead and add the second cup of rice that I cooked from the boiling bag, and that should take care of the rest of the liquid. There we go. I'm not going to add any more salsa to it. It looks pretty tomatoey the way that it is. And I don't want it to be too spicy because I want us to be able to add extra salsa on top when we do eat the casserole. That way we can each make it as hot or as tomatoey as we want. So this is good. So I'm just going to put the lid on this to keep it warm, and I'm going to check on my beans. Okay, I microwaved the beans with the lid on for just 1 minute. I don't have to really heat it up. I just want to warm it up so that they get a little bit creamier, so I can mix the taco seasoning in a little bit easier. So we're just going to mash it up a little bit so we get rid of those clumpy things. There we go. That looks good. Okay, so we're going to add, I have to look at my recipe. We're going to add 1 teaspoon of taco seasoning. I always use a measuring cup or a measuring spoon. If I'm using a spice that's hot or one that's got a lot of flavor, then I use a measuring spoon. Otherwise, I just sprinkle it in. Like cinnamon, I love cinnamon, so you can never have too much cinnamon. Now when you heat up the taco seasoning in the beans, it'll get a little bit hotter, so I don't use too much on that. All right, so I just put 1 teaspoon of taco seasoning in there, and then I'm going to mix it in there. Oh, that looks good. Smells good. I love tacos. You could make this on a Taco Tuesday. Have rice on a Monday and make tacos, or beans and rice casserole on a Tuesday. Okay, so now we're going to move that. We need the casserole dish. So I'm going to use cooking spray and spray the casserole dish so that everything doesn't stick too bad in there, so I can actually put it in the dishwasher to wash it and not have to wash it by hand. So spray your casserole dish with your cooking spray. Okay, so over the sink, so I don't get cooking spray everywhere, I sprayed my casserole dish. So I'm going to start with my beans, and I'm going to put them in the bottom. So just pile them all in there. If I wasn't too worried about them sticking, I might could do the beans right in the casserole dish and just microwave it right in there, but I don't like to do dishes, so I'm going to do that. Okay, so we have our beans all in there, and we're going to take a spoon and we're going to spread them out. We don't want them to be too thin on the bottom, so spread them pretty even. You don't want one side to be super thick and the other side to be like paper thin, because then they won't heat even. Here we go. All right, that looks delicious. Okay, so now we're going to add our rice mixture, and we're going to put that on top of the beans. So just plop it all in there. That smells so good. If you're going to make Spanish rice, that's the way I make my Spanish rice. I just put a little bit of taco seasoning in my rice when I'm getting ready to cook it, and then I add salsa, like a 1/4 to a 1/2 cup of salsa to my rice before I cook it, and then when it's done, it's so good and it's delicious, and it's just like a Spanish rice out of a box, only less sodium, because it allows you to control how much sodium you put in there. Okay. Okay, so we have our casserole in the dish. We sprayed our pan. We put a layer of beans. We put our rice on top. And I forgot to put this out in the beginning, but you should have a bag of cheese. And it's not just regular cheese, but it's nacho taco blend, which means it has a little bit of kick to it. That's why I said don't make your other stuff too spicy, especially if you have littles that don't like spice. Now you're going to add cheese to the top. And by add cheese, I mean put a nice decent layer on there, because you're going to be eating these with chips or in a burrito shell, so they are quite delicious. So you're going to want plenty of cheese on there. All right, that looks good. Okay, so now we're going to put it right in the oven, 350 degrees that we preheated the oven. We're going to cook it for about, where's it say? 10 minutes, for about 10 minutes. We're going to check it after 10 minutes, make sure the cheese is all melted and bubbly and gooey and delicious, and then we're going to plate it up. Okay, so the original cooking time is 10 minutes because not everybody's oven is the same, so I want to make sure that you don't overcook it. My oven, I have a double oven. I have an oven on top and an oven on bottom. My top oven tends to not run as hot as it should. So it's taken about 20 minutes, but I think it's done enough that I'm going to take it out and show you how delicious it looks. So here's my casserole, if you can see it, but it's very melted and very juicy. It's bubbling around the edges and it's kind of crusty around the edges, so that should be delicious. So I'm going to let it sit for about 10 minutes before I plate it, because that way it'll give everything time to cool off and rest a little bit, so it won't be so hard to get it out of the pan. So we're going to wait about 10 minutes and then we're going to put it on a plate. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes. So I took a butter knife and I just cut it into sections a little bit, just so that it would be easier to pull out of the dish. So I'm going to scoop out some. Remember that you have the refried beans on the bottom. And I just put it on the plate like that. Scoop those out because I want the rest of those beans. All right. So I'm just putting a small serving on there. I want to tell you that I'm going to eat twice that amount. Okay. All right, my pan is still hot, so I'm going to slide it over. All right, so once you have it on the plate, then you can garnish it with a variety of things. You can put lettuce on it. You can put avocados or tomatoes. You can add sour cream. And you can also add a little bit more salsa to it. So I think I'm going to add a little bit of tomato and a couple slices of avocado. I am going to put a little bit more salsa on mine, just because I like salsa a lot, as you can see. Now, you can serve this on a burrito, on soft burrito tortillas. You can use tortillas. You can actually put it right in the tortilla and roll it up and make it right into a tortilla. Or you can serve it with Doritos, or you can serve it with just regular corn chips, which is how I'm going to eat mine. And I'm just going to put them on the side, like this, and just dip it into my casserole dish. So there's a lot of different ways you can eat it and a lot of different toppings you can put on it. If you like yours hotter, feel free to put hot sauce on there. All right. So let's get out a spoon and take a taste. Put it on my chip. Let's get a little avocado. Delicious. So this is leftover rice and refried bean casserole. I hope you enjoyed the cooking class today, and I hope you'll join us next week. We'll see you later.